I'll be right, everybody. I'll be listening, but I gotta feed the dog.
Village of Webster Workshop agenda calling it to order on March 16, 2021 at 6 o'clock via Zoom. And the first item is a resolution to approve the minutes from February 25th. Look them over, please, and I'll be right back.
Just need Daryl to turn the sound down on the other one because it's messing up the sound and I don't know what I'm picking up on my recording.
Alright, I think it's down.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's better. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions on the minutes? If not, I would ask for a motion to approve the February 25th, 2021 minutes.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Alright, next we have a resolution to approve the claims and warrants. I haven't had an opportunity to look them over. I don't know if you can put them up on the screen or not.
Oh, yes, I can. Sorry. Hold on. 1 sec. Okay. Can you see them?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, the LMT kills me every time I see that.
You don't really have a better option until Don was all about was going to approve. He said he was fine initially with the other company that I wanted to go with, and then all of a sudden when we brought it up again after COVID, he had an issue with it, and he was fine with it initially. So my hands are kind of tied right now.
Hey, do we, not a big deal.
What
I
was
see
the name
Democrat
of the
$200. Do we even utilize that at all, or
The what? I'm sorry.
the Democrat Chronicle? It's not a big deal, but
Yeah, we thought about that. I mean, we use it at the office to, if we have any, we use it as a secondary source to post things.
all right. No, just be back.
Yeah, we thought about that too. It is expensive, I know.
What's the battery for under Napa Auto Parts? What vehicle or whatever needed a battery cables and terminal?
Jake, hear that?
Yeah, I'd have to look back at the bills, to be able to recall exactly which one that was. And for some reason, I think it was the cat backhoe, but I'm not entirely positive.
Okay, we can find out Daryl when you know. Okay, can we move down, Daryl?
Yeah.
Also, Mayor Byers, our new code enforcement officer is on. If you want to introduce him, Aaron Thompson is on.
Aaron, welcome.
Aboard.
Yes.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Was appointed the new code enforcement officer. last meeting. And so we welcome you this evening, and not sure it will be informative, but hopefully it will be, as you will be checking out the budget for next year along with us. So, welcome.
Well, thank you again. I appreciate it.
Any questions on this page?
No. Is that it?
Then just move into sewer.
Okay. Right. Fine. Anybody have a question? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the claims and wants.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, we have a resolution to authorize myself to renew and sign the rental service agreement with Cintas. I've looked it over. I have no problems with it, so I'll ask for a motion to sign the rental services agreement.
Have we shopped this lately, Jake? It's been a bit since we last shopped that this was a renewal. We did it, I want to say it was 30 months. I think was what the last term was because it was trying to realign it. And if you recall, most of this is just covered by the employees. They have the clothing allowance that they choose to get clothing, then they pay covers the cost of this, and this is really for like the shop rags and the rugs. Alright. Which is ultimately what the village ends up paying for. There you are, Carl.
So I'll ask for a motion to authorize the signing of the rental service agreement.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Lauer?
Aye.
Mayor Byers?
I guess now at this point we move into the budget discussion. And Marcia, I guess I would turn it over to you for updates to general expenditures as well as sewers. Do we have any updates at this particular point? I think we do.
Oh, Marcia, you're muted.
We really do.
Sorry. I think what I'd like to do is just move through the email as we did on our call with you, Daryl. Does that sound like a plan?
Sure.
Okay. So first I just wanted to point out a few relevant budget-related dates. Next Thursday, I will present the budget to the board. Then April 8th is our public hearing, so we'll have it posted. We'll have the tentative budget published the week before that. And then on the 22nd is the vote. Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay. Then Joe put together the fee schedule and the payroll chart for us. The only thing that's still undecided is the sewer rates, so we can get into those later on. And if anybody has questions about those, you can hit Joe up, or me, I guess, but since Joe put them together, she's your guy. Okay. Okay.
Just to add one comment. Aaron spent some time today looking through other municipalities' fee schedules, and he did find some areas where we could be charging more for some of our permit fees.
Okay.
So we may have a few revisions. He's still going to look into some of that tomorrow, maybe the next day. But
Nice.
he's finding money.
Okay.
No, I mentioned
Good
Daryl
start.
email that we would talk about that later, okay, not tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
That sounds good. Okay, on the March 16th version of the budget, I attached a couple of extra tabs. The first one is just a little refresher for those of us who don't have to use the chart of accounts and the accounting codes all day long.
Great, that's great. Thank you.
If you have questions about that, I am happy to discuss. Took me a while to catch on, but now I think I've got it. So, and with those codes, there's also a little section on the different payroll accounts, and just a reminder for the hourly guys, the totals in each payroll line will fluctuate depending on what has happened during the year. Like if we have a hard winter, there are going to be more lines in, or more, back it up. The snow removal line will have more in it. That's what I was trying to say. And then just thirdly, Jake made the excellent point that there isn't much fluff in the budget. The whole bare bones standard budget and wish list idea that I presented last year, it doesn't seem to really be relevant because, you know, we don't really have the money to put together wish list things, and the things that we budget are things we really need. So all those lines are kind of the same. Okay, are we good so far?
We're good.
Okay. And looking at the general budget, there are very few significant changes, just a few little tweaks, but nothing significant except the loader lease, which I had forgotten to include that in the budget, and that's another $40,000 plus a year. And that's divided between, Jake, help me, I'm blanking out here. Divided between snow removal and road repairs.
Yeah, it's 5112 and 5142.
Thank you. But aside from that, everything else is pretty much as it was. So the first thing we need to talk about is possibly an increase in property tax. And that's another one of the tabs I included in your spreadsheet. It shows the current property values as were sent to us by Maria at the county, and then what our revenues would be if we don't raise taxes at all the way up to the maximum allowable increase of just of $219, almost $220 per thousand. Daryl, would you like to speak to that? Share your thoughts about increasing that? Oh, you're muted.
We have discussed the fact that we have not raised taxes at all, I don't think, in the last 7 years. And we have made actually So I think that it is appropriate that at this time we do raise our property tax. We've thought about going from 213, which it is now, to 217. And that would be an increase of all of $10,000 plus for the budget, but it is somewhat significant that we do look at an increase since we've held the current rate for quite a number of years, not a decrease. That's my thought, and I think that you all can chime in on that if you wish.
Well, I am strongly in support of that move. I think it's, from what I'm learning from OSC and other municipalities, if you don't kind of keep up with small increases, then at some point you're going to have to do, a major increase that's going to be more painful to the taxpayers. It's going to feel more painful whether they're actually ending up paying more or not.
I hate to do that.
What's the percentage, or like $100,000 house? What's their taxes going to go up by roughly?
I think it's either $1.31 or $13. No, it's not 13. Barely $1. It's a tiny little increase.
I know everyone always initially just says, "Oh, we don't want to raise," but OSC recommends, and myself and Marcia do recommend it, because then if you slowly increase it a little bit, it might not seem like it's significant, but it really is, and then you're not having to increase it exponentially. And for example, a year or two ago, the town of Henrietta had to raise theirs by 30% because we never raised. So you need to do it, and it is healthy. It's fiscally responsible to raise it slightly a little bit. It just keeps the budget healthy and in good shape like it is right now.
I can chime in just for a little historical perspective. I've been involved with the village for a couple minutes now. When my first village board meeting was in 2005, and we reduced the rate from the projected rate from 232 to 222. So we're not even to the level that we were in 2005. And I'm not I hate raising taxes, which was why I'm so darn cheap when we do stuff. We do everything we can, but the fact is, gas and electric go up, gasoline goes up, diesel goes up, everything, asphalt goes up, concrete goes up, everything we use goes up, and we've kept it flat for a long, long time. And I think we've been great stewards of the taxpayers' money. And I don't think that all of a sudden, this is a roaring 20s, we're going to start pulling their money, but everything went up and we haven't raised rates, so that means we're just squeezing everything a little more and spreading everything a little thinner, and it's about as thin as you can get it. So we're going to see through it pretty soon. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
And not not get 30% at yeah. Because then people will be coming after you.
I agree with Jake then. And Daryl. Do we need to vote on that?
I don't think so. I don't know. I wouldn't think so. I mean, that's just part of the budget. You vote on that when you vote on the budget.
No, you don't. You don't have to vote on it unless we're going over the tax cap or tax. Yes, you don't have to vote on it unless we're going over
That
the
goes
tax.
attached to 19, correct?
Yep.
Correct.
For 19.7, so we are under the tax cap.
Yep. We're safe.
Well, Heather, or
major thing we need to talk about is the fund balance in the general fund. For purposes of this discussion, I'm not going to continue to say unassigned fund balance unless you would like me to. I'm just going to call it the fund balance. Is everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay. So, we have, there are several things that need to happen before this fiscal year ends that are going to affect the fund balance. So I would like to walk through those and talk about where we're going to end up. Our current unassigned fund balance is $745, or $745,800. We'd have a different discussion if it was $700. Anyway, so that's current. The first change is that I inadvertently took more out of the debt service reserve account than was actually in it, which sounds really bad, but is actually just a journal entry to correct it. So that will reduce our fund balance by $55,623. Anyone, and I'll stop if anybody has any comments about any of these steps, just jump in. Okay, and then secondly, we all were thinking that forgiving that sewer debt was going to be a major hit to our fund balance, but actually it will increase our fund balance by $569,000. The reason for that, and yes, I spent a long time on the phone with Dan Aquilano at OSC working out how to do the journal, or how to do the accounting for this so that all the accounts end up where they need to be. And ultimately, all we're doing is moving that balance from non-spendable, when it was sewer's debt that they weren't planning to pay back soon, we had to classify it as non-spendable. Now we're just going to take it out of there and move it into unassigned fund balance. Does that make sense?
Yay.
Yes.
Yeah.
The board needs to pass a resolution for me to be able to do that, so we can deal with that on the 25th at our meeting, but I'll have everything all ready to go for you. So, that's going to
Really good news. Really,
yes,
really
it
good
is.
news.
That's
Wow.
going to increase our fund balance by a big pile.
Absolutely. Wow.
Okay, then the third thing is that in the current budget, we budgeted to put $43,000 plus in reserve accounts before the end of this year. So once we've done all those things, our balance at the end of the fiscal year will be $1.2 million and change. So, reading from the email, Fried Maxick and OSC recommend that our unassigned fund balance should be between 15 and 30% of annual expenditures. Our budgeted expenditures for this year were $3.2 million, and that fund balance amount is 37.4% of that, so we're over the recommended amount. Translated, that means that we are holding on to too much of our taxpayers' money, and we're not using it to make their lives better as village residents. In order to bring that fund balance down to 30%, which is the max, I mean, we're not breaking any laws by having more in there, but it's not a good idea. In order to bring that fund balance down to 30% of expenditures, we would need to remove $241,811. Either spend it or put it in reserve accounts or recommendation is that we use that excess to cover the 200,000 plus gap that we left our last meeting with in the budget. At the end of that meeting, we were trying to find ways to cut our expenditures to meet our reduced revenue. We were going to be able to still get the vehicles we needed by depleting the vehicle and equipment reserve account. But if we reduce our fund balance for this upcoming budget, we can cover all of our budgeted expenditures without having to draw from that reserve account. And we can fund reserve accounts with the remaining $13,707.
Nice.
So that is my recommendation, and I also, I feel pretty comfortable with, Daryl had suggested that maybe we should put all of it, like split it out into the reserve accounts, in preparation for the major road work that we have coming up. But we also have some federal money coming to us from the, what do you call it, Act? American Rescue thing?
Yeah.
That the president signed 5 days ago. We don't know exactly how much we're getting, but as I said in the email, it's looking like at least $600,000 over the next 2 years.
Yay!
And one of the permitted uses of that is for infrastructure, which is exactly where we want to build up our reserves. So that's my thinking, is that we take care of, if we cover all the things that are currently budgeted. Jake, let me know if you have a different perspective, but it seems to me that that will sort of catch us up to current with our vehicle rotation and the road work that needs doing. And from that point on, we can kind of stay on top of it and then build up our reserves with that federal funding.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think the road work, we kind of had a reduced project list this year, just as a rebound year. And the vehicles, that was one of the reasons, was we were going to focus on some vehicle replacements to get that back on schedule, because I think that ultimately with that rotation plan that we had, we really reduced costs of maintenance, and we reduced the cost of acquisition for new vehicles, because there's value left, and more value left in the old ones. So we wanted to try to keep it staggered, but keep that thing going too. So yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Anyone else have comments or questions?
My comment would be in terms of what we're looking at in terms of reserves, and monies over the next 2 years, the 600,000. I think a large amount of that should be going into reserves for Donovan reconstruction, commercial street reconstruction, and we also need to consider reserve for capping wells. Kind of put that off, and I don't know how long we can do that. So that money that's coming in is certainly money that can be used and will be used for things that need to be done. Donovan Street, Commercial Street, those are streets that are part of the village and are in very bad condition, and they need to be done. So that's what I would look for in terms of that $600,000. Just my thought. Anyone else?
I agree too. Yeah, I agree.
Terrific.
I do have one question in terms of expenditures. projected next year, that's pretty significant. And we really coming out that many trees and trimming those, that number of trees.
Yeah, we trim about 20% of our street trees every year, which is about, it's a little under 15,000 usually. We've tried to keep that as low as we can. Obviously, with the emerald ash borer going through, there's some more ash trees, there's some more removals that we have. We had 123 ash trees in our street inventory, and I think when we started to do the emerald ash borer treatments, we evaluated them and ended up treating about 60 of them, so just about half of the trees. Some of them were real close proximity up to the others. Some of them didn't have good structure or great health, or they weren't in a good spot. So there was reasons when we decided, let's leave those ones off. Kind of almost sacrificial. We knew we were going to lose them when the ash borer came through. And now the ash trees get brittle when they're standing dead. So it's important to try to remove those as fast as we can, and that projected budget reflects that as well. And this year, I've just got to look at we still have to do our tree trimming for this year out of this year's budget. We combined a few lines a couple years ago, so that's why I'm trying to figure out actual year to date. Yeah, so that's about the 13, 14 that we have left in there. That amended budget should reflect rollover, things that we had encumbered from the previous year's budget that was rolled over into this one. I believe, Marcia, I don't think it was an additional ask. I think it was at the end of the year. I can look and see what last year's actual was.
All right, the emerald ash borer, is that what you're saying?
No, emerald ash borer I think is a different, isn't that a shade tree contractual? That's other.
That's 85/16/470.
Yeah, that's the other line. But the tree trimming, yeah, you see the year before we only spent basically $11,000.
Yeah.
Then what we had in there, we had projected more. What we had in there was rolled, I think it was about 25 or so. And so that was rolled over into this year's budget. That's why it went from 25 to 39. Because we didn't spend it the year before.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So at the end of the budget year, if there's something that's, in May or June, we might encumber that money. We might have done the tree trimming later, in May, not got the bill before the end of the year, but we still had the contract for it. So that money was encumbered. Then when the books got closed, I think it rolled over. If we didn't get the bill yet, because some companies are faster than others at billing. So we might have rolled that over, so that made the current budget go up by that much. But in fair, I think when we rolled over that, we also rolled over funds to cover it. That wasn't just the expense. So it'd be a corresponding increase in the revenue side.
Jake, has there been a decision, or Marcia, regarding 1620-200, which is village hall equipment? And I believe that there was $60,000 that was still in white for inclusive of a roof. The normal budgeting, it looks like, is somewhere around averaging probably $25,000, $24,000. We budgeted $280 and spent $6,000 so far. But is that for the roof? That idea is still going on, or is it not?
Yeah, it's 60. That's a similar circumstance. So the 60, we spent about $6,000 to $280. 230 of that or so, 230-ish, 250 is the. I think it was 230 was the ready project with the sandbar well decommissioning, and then $50,000 was the roof. Obviously, that's not going to come out of this year's budget, so that should kick over. And then be either if we can get out to bid early enough, which I anticipate, and have funds encumbered, have a contract, we can encumber a big portion of that for the sandbar wells, and then whatever's not used, we'll go into the fund balance at the end of the year. But that's why we're trying to do the roof out of that this year, and get those. That's why we had $60,000 in there, and that's our best budget estimate that we had. I mean, obviously at $60,000, we're going to have to go out to bid, unless it's on a state or county, piggyback thing on a county bid or statewide bid. But I think roof repairs might be, but I think replacements probably not because they're kind of unique.
We also need to, Heather, when is the guy coming to give us a quote on the sound?
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
My microphone wasn't working before. He came and took a look, and we're still waiting on some numbers, but I think I did send you one thing, Marcia. It's good that you brought that up. We had the guy come and look, and turns out I had mentioned that the top two things that we needed to do were, they're down the road. I have other plans that I'd like to get a camera that I can move and stuff, but that's not for a couple more years. But we wanted to fix where the microphones get plugged in, because if you remember when we tried to stream on Facebook, we can't have everybody plugged in at once, and he looked at that and it really needs to be replaced. So that's one thing that we want to do. And then the second thing was that he went up and looked at the wires, and I think Carl, you came in that day. Oh, you left. But they went up there. Carl, I was just saying, hi, sorry, I was just saying you were here that day when the gentleman came, and he went up and looked at the wires, and he found out that it's actually not up to code. So we need to fix it anyway, and that's something we want to do to have its own. I get this too mixed up, Jake. You can correct me, but it's not. I forget if it's breaker or circuit, but basically it needs its own. And right now it's currently sharing one with something going on in the garage, and it causes a lot of feedback. But like I said, we need to fix it anyway because he went up and it's not up to code. Whoever put the wires in didn't. And Carl, you were there if you want to.
Yeah, they're not Cat 5 wires. They should be 5 or 7, and so they're not shielded or anything. They pick up a lot of noise and white noise.
So we need to have that.
It needs to be rewired.
Yeah.
But just because we have a new code enforcement guy in here, and I don't want to get mad at us, they were up to code when the place was built. So that was built like 1989. Cat 5. I think Cat 5 was probably cutting edge, and Carl would know better than that. In 1989, if Cat 5 even existed then.
It was.
It was cutting edge. So
in the 90s.
So it was up to code then, but obviously codes evolve, and typically when you run low voltage and line voltage stuff, 110, you run them in separately so that they don't pick up the low voltage stuff doesn't pick up interference from the electric, So don't write us up, Aaron, because it's not our fault. I'll do that tomorrow.
So I thought I sent you something, Marcia, but I can't find it right now. So I'll look for that tomorrow. But he was gonna. If he didn't, I know he sent me something initially, but it was a lot different than what he actually got in there and took a look. So
Okay.
I'll give the numbers to you. But
Okay.
like I said, he didn't. I told him he knows that we were you have to be careful. We're a village. We can't be spending a crazy amount. And I told him that we'll adjust based on only the needs at this point, and then going forward, we do need a replace one more mic though, but that's not very much. It's like $100, I want to say, right, Joe? Do you recall how much those new mics were?
They were around that. They weren't that expensive.
Not too bad. Yeah. Okay. We need one because I don't have one. And every time I try and use the podium mic,
have alternates, then we've got Don, myself, and it will be Aaron, occasionally Jake. So just a thought, we might want to consider a couple.
What do we say? We have 8 and we need 10, so we were gonna get like 2 more. So, but very good.
Yeah, I think so.
So I'll let you know for sure, Marcia.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Does everybody feel like we're ready to move on to the sewer budget?
Well, wait a minute.
Okay.
Computer hardware, software, maintenance, 406, 1325, 406.
Oh, yes.
I see 11,000. Last year was 29,531.
Yep. That's because,
Is that gonna be the code thing that we're just talking about? Is that
no,
what
actually, I made an executive decision to combine the hardware and maintenance account and the software and support, because we kept getting confused about which goes where. So all those numbers represent combined.
Okay. Okay.
I have a question on, shade trees. Let's see, what do we got here?
8560.
8560, 200 shade tree equipment. How come for 2 years in 19 and 20 we have budgeted amounts and we do not have anything the last 2 years? Where'd it go, Jake? You know?
Yeah, it went to the wood chipper and it's not the leaf bag. It might be the leaf bag. Yeah, I think it is.
I think it is.
Yeah, that's about the right amount. So the wood chipper and the leaf bag. So now we got new equipment and we don't have to spend it.
Okay. That's good. That's all, Marcia.
Okey doke. On to sewer. This will be a much shorter discussion, I think. Do you want to address the sewer rate first?
No, why don't we just go through? Unless
Okay.
you don't do the sewer rate first, but why don't you
Well,
go through?
sewer rate is first on the list, but we can leave it for last if you prefer.
Talking about budgetary things here.
Okay.
We can do it first. Just to let everybody know, where we are, the normal where we've been, $150 per EDU. We started at 95, guys, and we've been now at 150 for a period of time. But as you know, a number of things are going to happen. If we decide to stay on our own, and that decision is made by, say, July, then we are going to have to bond significantly, and we would be in the sewer business for a long time. If we decide not to, well, then things change. We'll be in the collection business, but not necessarily the treating. And obviously, we're still in need of significant funds. So, what I have proposed are 3 different rates. First one is 150, which is the same as where we have been for the last couple of years. The second is a jump to $190 per EDU, and the third is what would be revenue at $200 per EDU. Now, say, well, what are we doing jumping up to from 150 to 200? If we decide to stay on our own, then that money hopefully should allow us to bond the monies that we're going to need for all the repairs to the sewer. of our system, and also allow us to stay ahead of the game for a number of years. At least I hope. That would allow us to hold that rate for, next year, the year after, hopefully, and the year after that before we have to raise again. At this particular point, the only alternative is to go through step increases, and what that allows is for no reserve. What you see there is going to be a reserve in terms of monies. If we jump to the 200, obviously that amount of reserve would decrease as the years go on, but that reserve then would be used to fund the increase in the budget for sewer over the next few years. So we can't stay at 150. We're going to be in trouble at 150. We have bare bones if we have nothing in reserve. We need to go to at least 190 if not 200.
But you also said in the middle there of like 195. That was an option.
195 might be better because it might be under a magic number of 200.
Yes.
Which could then be an easier raise next year, $5 only, with a discount now. I don't know. Anyways, that is certainly for your consideration and your thoughts. If you take a look at the last page, the excess revenues over expenditures at 190 would be approximately $47,000. At 200 would be $110,000, which would be more significant in terms of being able to bankroll some of that money. You need to consider the fact that for sewer, it's basically a 3% increase every year. It goes up, it goes up, it goes up. So we have not raised significantly the rates at the beginning. I don't think anybody really had an idea of what it was that we needed to put and invest into the sewer. We kind of flew by the seat of our pants with that. Now that we have better ideas, you'll also find that $195, $200 is a bargain in terms of considering the rest of the villages and what they put into sewer.
Was not even a penny a day. If I might,
It's not bad to take the waste away, is it? A penny a day.
if I might add something, I attended that sewer meeting this morning, and it was our kickoff meeting. And we know that no matter which way we go, regional or keep our local, that the EDU is going to go up. And if we go regional, it'll go up significantly already, rather than raise it now. Maybe we ought to wait and just do it once.
Raise our taxes, raise our sewer rate, what the heck?
It's not, if you look at it overall, it's only a penny or two a day. It's not that much if you look at it for an entire fiscal year.
Right. If you're thinking about it, it's really not much, and
It's not a big,
again, you're doing it slowly again versus one big chunk, and you're able to start saving for these things that we want to do in the future. And really, I mean, was 150 or not? Was it 90, Joe? When initially 90? What was it?
It was 98 originally.
98.
Yeah, it stayed at 98 for 2 years, and then it went to 120 for 2 years, and then we went at 150.
And I mean, who knows? Maybe it should have been at around 190 this whole time. We just didn't know. And so, if you think about it, it's not that much more.
I think we first set this up, we put it at 98 because we were gonna have to iron it out. We never had sewer separate from general before. We've had a sewer department for 80 years and a long time of that 80 years. It was just included in our general budget. So trying to separate things out, there's cost sharing things that we do, say, interdepartmental. So yeah, we set it for 98, knowing that it wasn't going to be where we needed to be, but we didn't want to take too much. So we said, let's set it what we have to, and then go from there. But yeah, like the mayor said, you can look up real Monroe County property tax. I think it's not the property tax portal, but tax rates. They have special district charges, and you can look up there. And I should update mine. I did it last, I think, in 17. But there's municipalities, villages that have switched over to the countywide system, or have some other alternatives that are over like $408, $366 for their sewer. And I guess to put it in perspective, I pay with my cell phone, my wife's, my two kids. I think it's almost $200 a month for a cell phone, so somebody can call and tell me about my car's warranty. That's every month. That's getting rid of all the waste you produce in a year for $200. I think I'd like to send it to the people that call me about my car's warranty, but that's a different subject.
Let me know how you do that. You can figure that out. Let me know, Jake.
I would like to add also that lawsuit a couple of years ago really kicked us in the pants hard.
Yeah, it did.
And we have not adjusted for that. We're going to have to adjust for it.
And if if we have the opportunity to continue on with our sewer, our treatment of it, I think one of the things that we would consider first and foremost would be an enclosure, so that we could begin to pull back some of that revenue that we lost in terms of treating septic or taking septic. I know we can't take leachate. There are a number of things we can't do, but that would be a significant source of income as well, about $100,000 I think we lost. Is that right, Jake? So, that too would help in the future, but that remains to be seen.
That would be great. So is the plan, what's the plan for determining the sewer rate? Is that something that you guys were hoping to finalize tonight?
I don't think with only 3 people online we're going to be able to do that motion.
Okay.
Okay. I think we need a full board's decision and input. So.
Okay. So for budget
But it won't stay at 150.
For budget presentation purposes, are you guys good with me assuming 190, and then we can tweak as needed?
I would say yes, personally.
Because we do have to post it, and probably better to go down than go up if you're going to make any changes. I mean, like I'm saying, I think we need to increase it, but if we put it in the paper that we're putting it at 190, and then you decide to go back to 150.
Easier said from the girl from Greece.
Great.
I think we should go to 95. 195.
Are we presenting? Is this the last of your budget meetings, or is it that meeting in March 25th? March 25th. Isn't that part of the budget meeting? Are we able to make more adjustments? So,
Yes, definitely.
I would say tentatively maybe go to 190, but in terms of then coming back with a final decision with the board, maybe we might have more discussions offline.
recommendation, but, you know, it's tentative right up until you vote.
Yeah, I like that.
Just keep in mind, and Joe, if you can fact check me on this. It is tentative until you vote, but keep in mind, there's this time period where you can't change it once it's in the paper until after the public hearing. So just keep that in mind.
But it's not going into the,
Not yet. Not until March.
until after our meeting on the 25th.
Correct.
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 Yes, sir.
Okay.
Carol, can I just say that I much prefer this view where you are right now versus when you're in your home. This is way more like, it's way more mood boosting. This like sunny sky behind you.
Are you on a boat, Daryl?
Can we all come?
Oh, we're not. It's 77 degrees now, with about 78, 80 today.
Tough.
It's,
Come on, showing up.
you're in such a good mood. You should. I like you down there. Just
I like
kidding.
it here too.
Well, we're almost done here. Shall we go to the next item on the sewer budget? Okay, that is our scum skimmers.
Come skipper.
Needs a better name. I'm sorry.
Come skipper.
If we want to skim scum, we have to get the scum skimmers. We have them in the budget at $100,000. John tells us that well, first of all, if we go regional, we won't need them at all. So, given that we have not decided, that the decision hasn't been made, if John tells us that we can hold off for long enough for the board to make that decision, if we don't go regional, then I believe he said that they can hold on for one more year. So if we take them out of this budget, they would have to be in the next one.
If we stay with our own.
Right.
Now, Jake, is this something that if we stayed with our own, we're taking out of this year, and we're staying with our own, it would have to go in next year? Is that something that could be bonded?
Absolutely. This is part of, if you remember, 15, we did the first engineering planning study and then did the other one, 16, and finished up in 17, I think. This is, some of the things we've been doing down there are recommendations from those studies that we're trying to, that either couldn't wait, or we, is more beneficial to get them done. And this is one of the items that was identified in the study. So that would be part of that first, phase one of the project that was included in that. So yeah, absolutely, this is something that would be bonded. If it wasn't done as part of the budget, it would be bonded. So that money would be spread out over 30 years. Obviously you have finance costs then associated with it, but I think very often the finance costs are less than what the increase is year over year. So, it seems like, sometimes it's, doing it today is cheaper than actually doing it, maybe not this year, but especially when you're bonding something, it's not any cheaper to wait, because it costs you, if you can borrow the money for 3.23%, all the costs are going up 3%, so it costs you very minimal, more if you bond it. So, yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
You can bail me out on that one.
All right. So that's a possibility. And that possibly could come out.
Okay. Okay, the last didn't have a firm quote, we just had a budget quote. But now we've been provided with some firm numbers. There's one price that is only valid until the end of March. In order to qualify for that price, we have to sign a letter of commitment before that cutoff. If that doesn't happen, then we go to the higher price. If we can manage to sign that letter of commitment, we're going to save $18,000. That's how much it goes up on April 1st.
Which it would be in this current budget, correct, Marshall?
Right, if we did that, we would need to do a budget mod for this year, and then obviously we would take that out of next year's, or actually, we wouldn't have to budget that whole $400,000. We would only have to handle the 1 year lease payment. So next year's budget would have another lease payment in it, but we'd be finished that much sooner with our payments. I kind of feel as though if we have to get a new truck, it's on its last legs, and we might as well save ourselves the $18,000.
What line is that in, Marcia?
That is in 8130 200. Yeah, sewage treatment equipment. That number already includes one lease payment.
So what we would be doing is trying to look this year whether or not we have money, but making a budget mod, take that first payment. That then in next year's budget would be a second payment. Is that correct?
Yes. And I need to make sure that we actually have the cash and also get details about the timing that's required. If we sign that letter of commitment, when do they need our first payment?
And what would the first payment be? What would the amount be?
Hang on.
They need the first payment?
Yeah, which payment would be out of this
When
budget?
the use of the truck, a new truck.
Yeah, I think it's typically a delivery with those leases. That's how it was with the backhoe and.
I want to say it's about 85,000. I don't have it at my fingertips.
Earl and Daryl are going to make a donation for that first payment.
There we go. Yeah, my $10.
That means that's
Shoveling driveways, putting in money for its flush truck.
this is the piece of equipment we're going to need regardless of what the decision is on the sewer discussions having pledge assessment. And the one we currently have, it's a 2003, and we got our money's worth out of this. It's a very well-used piece of equipment and definitely required. So this one's, she's getting tired. So,
How much is that worth, Jake? You think you can
Yeah, I was wondering.
take that to
what
Palmyra, or?
you can, but the problems with like sewer vac trucks and sweepers and things, it costs a lot of money but there's, when you buy them, but they're such a specialized piece of equipment that they typically, we're probably talking 25, 30 grand. And it's a 380, is it? I forgot the number.
Yeah.
But again, 380 grand over, this one's 18 years old. So I don't know if you annualize that, how much that is. If it was 320 probably when we got this one, 18 years, that's about 17 grand a year. Did I do that right? 18 grand a year. So I think this one, they're really, they have about a 12-year life expectancy. We've stretched a few extra ones out of this year, out of this one. About 18,000 a year. And this lease is it a 5-year, Marcia?
I think 4.
4, okay. That makes was 380.
Around 100,000 a year, I think, right? Somewhere close to that.
Yeah, a little under.
What are you doing? Get down off of there.
Okay.
Go forward.
Well, it's definitely something I think that we have to do.
Yeah.
I have one other question for you, Marcia.
Yep.
That is 8134.50. Town costs.
Oh, yeah.
What are we up to? 87,000, 18,000. Tell me about that.
That is still a rough number, actually. The increase is because we owe the town whatever our share will be of the generator, the new generator for their plant.
Okay, so you're incorporating at least a guess of what that is and putting that in there for that.
Yep.
And that's a mute point. Should we go to regional? If we don't go to regional, then that is something that you will have to pay. So you're aware. Otherwise, it'll be incorporated into the regional funding.
Jake, do you know what the timing is of when all these things are replaced? When we are on the hook for shipping in?
Well, they're in the middle of phase one now. Or not in the middle, they're probably ramping it up. So I'm assuming they're going to get some bills and want to do that. They just have to sort out the. I know Don was talking to Charlie about the agreements and the amount for the generator, because that's really was what phase one really pertained to for us. They were that portion of it. So. He's going to sort out what the generator is, but again, Carl pointed out earlier, if we did go to the regional, we'll pay more, significantly more with the regional, plus have our own collection system, and that way more than cover what the generator cost is. So, it's I don't know if that's a deciding factor. It's going to. Definitely pay way more than what the generator would be. So.
Okay.
Okay. There are no further questions. My work here is done.
Almost.
Okay, so we're looking, Marcia, at the next board meeting for a decision. Vote on the that truck. So
Yep.
that we can make that commitment before March 31st, right?
Yep, and I will do my homework and make sure that we have the cash to back that up.
And then we'll need to decide what you want to go with the sewer rent.
Yep, and the skimming the scum. Well, this was fun.
All right, Daryl, whenever you are ready, you can take an adjournment. That's
No, not yet. Wait.
Thanks, Marcia.
Wait a minute, Jake. Are you still there?
Yeah. What's up?
Same night.
Can you give me an update on the speedy permit?
Oh, it's DEC is reviewing it. They reviewed it. They did a preliminary. I can't say that word very well. Preliminary review.
Say that 3 times fast.
I can't. They one time slow. They did a prelim review. Let's say it that way. And we had some comments those were the comments that we got back early. We responded to those, and they're still, as far as I know, they're still reviewing it. I have not heard anything.
How do you feel about it? You think that we may get it or we may not? What is your feeling?
I think I can't say they're being denied because we're just asking them basically to go in the same area. It's just a matter of what they would say the requirements are, what are as far as what our limits are, and how they want those achieved. I mean, it's a kind of unique situation. We've been dumping or discharging, I guess, into the same location for the last 40 years, 45 years, making permit without any issue. They know what our limits are or what our numbers are. Seems like it'd be a pretty easy review, to be honest with you, but they're looking at it as far as what the new standards are or if there's anything else. So they're going through the process, and I mean ultimately they're going to be able to figure out if we get our own permit, what we would have to do for that. It's certainly it really wouldn't be much of a change for us at all.
Testing points, right?
What's that?
Would it be just the testing points?
Yeah, basically, and honestly it's a change of a definition where they define the discharge point at and where the testing point might be. But as far as the levels and the permits or the limits, I can't see them. I mean, I don't want to say I'd be surprised if they're much different than what we have today. It's the same body of water, the same plant, same thing coming in. So I never say never, I guess, but I would be surprised if they're a lot different. But we just have to wait and see what they say.
For the board members, I need your comments on what you think the priorities are, either going regional or staying with our own STP. What do you think is the most important thing? You don't have to answer now, but keep in mind, we need to know what the most important thing you think about is if we go regional and if we stay with ours. And I was asked that question this morning, and I said the bottom line is EDU, which either way we go, it's going to affect people's pockets. No good. So think about that, you too, Jake. If anyone else has any input, that's good too. But this committee I'm on is going to is looking for a lot of information still, and we already have a lot of that information and proposals and numbers. And that was the question that came out of today's meeting.
Carl, did the town find a fourth person?
Yes.
I know they found the third one in Dave Galeazzo.
Dave was there. Scott Marshall.
Well, he's ours.
He's ours. Barry Dean, Chambry, Dave Galeazzo, John, myself. And Chetfield, of course. Yeah, we had a good turnout this morning. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Carl,
Carl.
We're done?
What, Heather? Oh, you said thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Then we'll try to get back to you, Carl. Right?
Okay. Yep.
And if not, if you don't hear from in a week or so, are you guys meeting about every week?
Our next meeting is April 6th.
Wow. Well, then little time in there to respond for you. Okay?
Yep.
Are those open to the public at all? I know I asked Don early on, but he wasn't sure.
No.
I asked that too, because I wasn't sure if they needed someone to do minutes, but,
Well, Matt's doing minutes.
All right. If there isn't anything else, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Oh, wait. Hang on, Nate.
No, that's all right. I was just gonna update real quick that I'm working on an RFI for the Office of General Services, the OG at New York State's looking for their first state-owned veteran cemetery. I talked to an engineer about it, trying to get some information, and I'm going to try to submit something that's due Thursday. I'm not overly optimistic because, looking at the criteria that they have, as far as slopes and the way that some of these things are laid out, but I'm trying to see what we can do to put it together, at least keep our foot in the door on that. But that's it's one of the uses. This is about the Wellfield property. It's one of the uses that's allowed in the overlay district that's been on there for I think it went on in the late '90s. Was a cemetery. It's kind of passive things, a cemetery, a golf course, or something else. A few other uses that are allowed, but in a regular park. But so just give everybody an update. That's something that's due this week, and so don't call me tomorrow.
Let me ask you, Jay, do you think that contact with some of the private, it's almost a cemetery plot, if you will, that they own, some of the private landowners back in there would be interested in, at a very low cost, of selling their property or whatever if they knew, or if it had an effect that the cemetery might come in, because that would free up a lot of land that's now parceled off to, private landowners. What can they do with it? They can't do anything. Can they put a tent on it?
It's funny. I was thinking about that earlier today because there are some that are in the middle of things. There's storm lines that run through there for the tank drains, and obviously there's water lines that go from the big tank across and cut up a few of the parcels. So I've kind of excluded those areas from the land that we're kind of looking to see if we can kind of carve out, if you will, there. But one of the things I thought where there were those other lots that are in between is we've got other areas west of the tank parcel, or up in that tank parcel, that would absolutely be suitable. If they even can have it for a recreation use, if they can, put a tent on it, hang out, camp there, do whatever they want. That might be an area that we could, and it wouldn't be suitable for the cemetery, I think, because we've got some of those sandier slopes there. Obviously there's a lot of vegetation and things on it that are holding them, and keeping them good. They're deep enough, but I don't think they'd be suitable long term for a cemetery. So maybe that's something that would be kind of a swap. Hey, you got this much land over here. How about you take it over here instead, so we can kind of keep this together. That might be. Looks like when other people were getting the lots in there, and I don't know if everybody knows what we're talking about, but back in the 20s, it was the Crowder Farm, I think it was called, and they call it the Crowder subdivision, and a lot of the lots are like 0.17 acres. I mean, there's a very small fraction, and I think they were designed to be cottage lots. And St. Michael's or one of the other churches, I hear St. Michael's, I think a lot, were given away, the lots given away as raffle prizes. They were, and some families have had them since then, since the 20s and 30s. I did talk to somebody, came in one day, was trying to figure out, what do I do with this? I said, well, you can offer it to the village if you want. It's right down kind of in the middle of our stuff. back, but she said it was her great grandparents, I think, that got it. And they won it. They've had the lot, and they're paying taxes on this little postage stamp lot ever since then. They can't really build or do anything on. So, yeah, it would be nice if that allowed us to kind of consolidate some of the things together. And as I've kind of projected that being able to happen, with a lot of these, with the area. But I've done a little bit of printing and work today. Oh, here's actually, I don't know what just happened there.
A little blurry.
It is blurry.
Oh, and Jake, it's funny is that behind you, I don't know if you did something funny with your background, but
Yeah, it's blurry. It's called,
blurry. It looked like you're in another universe or another.
it's called the hide the mess button. I found.
Actually.
I can blur the background out. But
You look like you're in another dimension.
I am. I feel like I'm in another dimension.
Daryl, real quick before you, sorry, Jake, if you're, just want to make sure you were finished, but.
No, I'm never done, so just.
We know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just wanted to thank Jake and Marcia and Joe. Kind of was all hands on deck for the budget, and they did a great job. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Well,
ladies.
John and Clancy too. Sorry.
Not over yet. Not over until the budget passes. However,
We're in good shape. Still good.
all right.
Thank you.
If nothing else, then I'll entertain the motion. Yes.
Jake.
Hey, the lights look real nice on Main Street.
Yeah, we just put them up.
They look good. They look good.
But they up in the trees?
Yeah, we just left them up in the trees, but I was trying to get credit for putting more of them up. But they're just the same ones that were up.
Okay.
You left them in the smaller trees, which is good. I like it.
Yeah, we get rid of the other ones so they don't blow all around, but they left the small ones up.
Good.
How did they survive the winter? Good?
Yeah, I think these are LEDs now, the new decorations that we have, and they fare way better than the regular incandescent bulbs that we used to have. We used to have to change them all the time, and these you kind of plug in and knock on wood, they work. And we put them up and they work the whole time, unless there's some other issue, with a plug or something. So, no, I think that was a really good move to do that. I don't want to, Clancy likes all the LEDs, so, but that was a good idea.
Very good. Again, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Everybody.
Everybody.
See you next Thursday at 7. Right here. Right here. Thanks, Joe. Stop teasing, Daryl. It's rude. I want to go to Florida. You're teasing us.
Well,
There.
really
I
not
would
bad.
go.
Not bad. Getting a little cloudy tonight, but
It looks beautiful.
I know. All right, I'll be in touch.